Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Supergirl issue 38. This is written by Jody Houser with the art by Rachel Stott, did some of the art, and Inaki Miranda did some of the other art, and the hi-fi is the colorist, and Tom Napolitano is the letterer. Overall, the art was serviceable. I thought it was okay. It wasn't, wasn't bad. Wonder Woman shows up in this issue. Which is always cool because I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. Not a big fan where Wonder Woman's going in her own comic book, but as is typical with Wonder Woman, if you want any sort of exciting story with Wonder Woman, you really got to go outside the Wonder Woman comic book, because most people who write Wonder Woman comics seem to lose sight of the fact that when you write Wonder Woman in her own comic, you should make her kind of exciting. And not a boring, preachy woman who just doesn't really get anything done. And now, having said that, Jody Houser here, I gave her a compliment when I reviewed last issue, in that she's at least trying to explore the underbelly of Kara's darkness, because she's infected by the virus of the Batman Who Laughs. And she's sort of struggling with her dark side, or at least she appears to be struggling with her dark side. And I sort of posed the question that I hope Jody Houser would explore more in this issue, and I think she is a little bit, and that is that just because you're exploring your dark side, does that mean you're necessarily a bad person? I mean, if a person embraces a little bit of darkness, is that always a bad thing? And in any event, this storyline is part 2 of called I Am the Bad Guy, where Supergirl, Kara, is she wants to spread the infection of the Batman Who Laughs, and her purpose in her mind is very noble. She wants to spread the virus throughout Smallville as sort of a test case, really, and spread the virus so that other people could understand how enlightening coming in touch with your darker nature really is, and that the Earth can become a safer place if people embrace more of their darkness as opposed more of their light, so to speak. And so Kara's thinking is noble, plus she's very paranoid in her thinking in terms of, well, she doesn't want what happened to Krypton and to Kandor to happen to Earth. That the Earth needs to protect itself, and you're better able to protect yourself if you acknowledge certain harsh truths about the darkness of one's nature. And that's what Jody Houser is really having Kara do. And it's interesting, and I think Jody Houser really makes that point very clear throughout the story. Now, I will say that what criticism of this story maybe is that it's a little bit, it is decompressed, and ultimately there's a lot of unnecessary scenes. This is not really a comic book. Unless you're a huge Supergirl fan, you're not going to learn anything new about the virus, and you're not necessarily going to learn a lot more about Kara, other than the fact that she still is... The loss of Krypton affects her to a greater degree, I would argue, and as is illustrated here in Supergirl issue 38, because she was a teenager or at least a young girl when Krypton was destroyed, and the destruction of Kandor, the model city of Kandor, at the hands of Rogol Zar, I think also had a very profound impact on her, because not only did they fail, that her father and of course Jor-El failed to protect Krypton from exploding, but of course she failed and Superman failed. The L's failed. The L family failed to protect Kandor from Rogol Zar. So, and here we are. She's exploring her darker side. So in her mind, she, trying to find her own family and embracing her own family is very important to Kara. And she always seems to be beholden to Superman. If just one quick note, if I could play script doctor, I think it would be helpful if maybe Kara explored the possibility of creating a family outside of just her cousin Superman, so that she's not defined by him. That's one thing that hasn't really worked for this title. Unfortunately, they tried to introduce the rather shameful overlap and took ideas from the Supergirl CW show, which I frankly think is terrible. Just plain terrible. I've joked before on live streams with Comic Joe Geek and Dark Knight and others that if you want to play a drinking game, watch CW Supergirl, and every time a male character apologizes to a female character, you have to drink. You'll be drunk before the first commercial, is what I joked, and I stand by that. In any event, there's not a lot of apologies in this issue, and there shouldn't be. Jody Houser does a reasonably good job, but it is decompressed. Insofar as this is Superman and Batman at one point, there's a scene where they're or pardon me, Superman and Batman are acknowledging that Supergirl is up to something in Smallville, but because they're dealing with the other members of the Secret Six that are also infected by the virus, like Shazam and Hawkman and Donna Troy and Blue Beetle and Hawkman, they can't go and address Supergirl directly. And so they send Wonder Woman. Now, what I find interesting is Wonder Woman arrives on the scene. She's trying to get Supergirl to calm down because Supergirl, of course, brings her message to Smallville. Of course, she's very aggressive with it. And Wonder Woman gets in her way and tries using the magic lasso to try to get Supergirl to see her light, to see the truth. Now, this was very interesting. This issue ended on a cliffhanger with Wonder Woman throwing her magic lasso around Supergirl and, really trying to get Supergirl to see the truth of her nature. And at first, nothing happens, which was very interesting. I like how Jody Houser wrote that because, throwing the magic lasso, depending on which incarnation or power set you think the magic lasso has, because different writers write the magic lasso differently. In any event, there seems to be general uniformity of opinion that the magic lasso, at a minimum, can help people who are tied up with it to see their true nature, or to see the truth of things. So that if somebody is under hypnosis or under some form of deception, if Wonder Woman wraps her magic lasso around you, you can see the truth. Your perception is clarified. So it was very interesting to see. So the moment, I was curious to see how Jody Houser would write that. What would happen when Supergirl, Dark Supergirl, infected by the Batman Who Laughs virus, how would she react to the magic lasso being wrapped around her? And it's very interesting. At first, nothing happens, which led me to believe that, oh, this is interesting. So maybe the truth is that Kara really does have a darker side, and that is her truth, and that there is some truth to the darkness that she's embracing, that maybe it is an accurate reflection of who she is. And so it makes sense that they would do that. It shows the strength of Kara's darker side and darker urges to maybe exact revenge for the loss of Krypton, the loss of Kandor. And I like that because Kara has a lot of anger in her, and they really got to play with that. Remember, this is Supergirl, at least in the New 52. Remember, this is a woman who was a former Red Lantern. So, I mean, Wonder Woman Supergirl is not exactly a character that has always had very good anger management skills. And so the fact that she's got a darker side, I think, is very interesting, and Jody Houser can really explore that, and could even mention, although she doesn't mention, the fact that, Supergirl has had experience in dealing with her anger before, in particular when she was a Red Lantern. So I find that aspect interesting. But the cliffhanger here, ends that not only does Supergirl at first begin to resist the magic lasso, suggesting that her darker side is perhaps her most truthful self, but she does eventually, her eyes go back to normal, and she does seem to calm down. Some of the anger does dissipate from Kara when she's wrapped in the magic lasso. Now, is it Kara just playing a trick? Is it Supergirl just playing a trick on Wonder Woman to lure Wonder Woman into a false sense of security so she can throw the magic lasso off? We don't know. It might all be it might be just a ploy, or Supergirl playing possum with Wonder Woman. But it's interesting. I like the question it poses. I like it as a cliffhanger. It's a good cliffhanger. I hope Jody Houser does something very interesting with it and maybe takes a little risk with the character of Supergirl, if editorial would allow her to do that. But you never know. Because I think Supergirl is potentially one of the more interesting members of the Secret Six. And overall, I think this issue was not bad. I think it's decompressed, but that's not Jody Houser's. I almost think it's not really much Jody Houser's fault. She has the same restrictions as Mark Andraker did. She's sort of beholden to a storyline that she is sort of forced to play with. And I think she's done a reasonably good job in this issue. So in any event, guys, overall, I'd give this issue 6.5 out of 10. And tell me what you think of Supergirl issue 38. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.